In high school, as a group of 5 friends, we decided to go camping in a wooded area. We weren't very experienced in camping, but the excitement of the adventure was appealing to all of us. It was a Friday, and we had completed all the preparations on the last day of school. We had agreed to leave at 6 a.m. on Saturday, and I had asked my mom for her car to take my friends from their homes to the camping site. Early in the morning, I got up, picked up my friends, and set out for the camping site. Our 2-day adventure had begun. It was winter, but the weather wasn't too cold. Still, we knew we would need to constantly make fires for both cooking and keeping warm. Sam, who is experienced in barbecues, was our expert in starting a fire, so when we arrived at the camping site, our first tasks were to set up the tents and gather firewood. As we arrived at the camping site, we looked around in awe. There was a high-treed forest, and right in the heart of it was a beautiful lake. Before coming here, we had researched and looked at pictures, but the reality was even more peaceful than we had imagined. Parking the car by the lake, we began selecting the spot to set up our camp. Besides us, we noticed 2 other cars by the lake, but they were quite far from us. After a bit of investigation, we decided to set up our tents by the lake. The absence of anyone in our immediate vicinity influenced our decision. Sam and I went into the forest to gather firewood, and the others started setting up the tents. When we entered the forest, we realized there was almost no wood near the lake. Naturally, we weren't the first ones here, and those who came before us had already collected and used the nearby wood to find more wood. We decided to venture deeper into the forest. It had become gloomier as we delved deeper, and an eerie atmosphere was beginning to settle in. I suggested to Sam, "I think this is enough wood for tonight. We should head back." It seemed he was as uncomfortable with the environment as I was, as he readily agreed. On our way back, everything seemed normal until we stumbled upon footprints that didn't belong to any of us. Since it was a large forest, we assumed they were tracks of some wild animal and continued towards the camp. Along the way, we started hearing sounds that indicated something was moving between the trees. This frightened us because it could have been a wild boar or a bear, and we might have unknowingly entered its territory. We whispered to each other quietly, deciding that we needed to get back to the camp quickly. As we approached the camp area, we heard a distant bear growl. We considered it both normal and extremely unsettling. When we shared what happened with our friends, they assured us nothing abnormal occurred in our absence. Since it was our first camping experience, both Sam and I were still uneasy. I even suggested returning, but our friends loved the place and didn't want to leave. Sam reassured us, saying it was normal for animals to be in such wooded areas, and they would be hesitant to come close. Reluctantly, I agreed to stay. While we were away, our friends had set up the tents, and Sam and I started a fire, cooked some of the food we brought, and together ate. We decided to take a walk by the lake before it got dark to explore the area. It was genuinely peaceful, and the eerie events from the morning seemed to fade away as darkness approached. We returned to the campsite. The fire was dying down, and the air was colder than in the morning. We revived the fire and sat around it in a circle, chatting. Everything was going well as time passed, and the clear night sky took over. A peaceful atmosphere enveloped us. Late into the night, we started feeling drowsy. As we tried to figure out who would sleep where, the same thing happened again, a bear growl. Furthermore, this time it was much closer than in the morning. We all got up and turned our backs toward the lake. We were terrified because the growl indicated a bear might appear at any moment. We were also aware that the noise could have been caused by any animal, and it didn't necessarily mean danger. Nonetheless, we were on edge. While waiting, the noise stopped. Leaving all our belongings behind, we quickly got into the car. We discussed what to do while waiting in the car. The idea of returning seemed more convincing to everyone. Since we were planning to stay for 2 days, there was almost no equipment in the car. Most of our belongings were outside, and gathering them would take some time. Just as we were considering waiting for a bit, and then collecting our things once the bear had moved away, we saw 3 bears emerging from between the trees toward the lake. In the chaotic environment inside the car, everyone was saying something. It was very dark, and as we were contemplating what to do, we could see that one of the bears was significantly larger than the others. The bears had started drinking water from the lake. One of my friends said, "I think we should quickly go back, let our belongings stay here." After everyone agreed to this, as soon as I started the car to go back, the headlights came on, and 3 bears began looking towards us. Chaos ensued inside the car from that moment. Everyone was saying something. Probably one of the bears was the mother, and this situation likely made the mother bear perceive us as a threat. I needed to make a quick decision. I thought I should turn the car around and go back the way we came. Since the mother bear had noticed us, Bear never took his eyes off us for a moment. The moment I started moving the car, I saw her running towards us. At that moment, all I could think was that we were all going to die. Meanwhile, I continued changing the direction of the car. Before I could accelerate, the mother bear had already rapidly approached us. Chaos inside the car continued to escalate. I finally managed to change the direction of the car, and just as I was about to accelerate, we received a violent impact from the right rear of the car. Fearing the impact, I accelerated even more to get away from there. At one point, I looked at the rearview mirror and saw that the mother bear was still rapidly chasing us. Fortunately, it couldn't catch up, and we quickly distanced ourselves from there. This incident affected us negatively for a long time, however, considering it could have happened while we were sleeping and resulted in greater harm. We were fortunate. Despite everything, we were lucky.